Great. So, today we want to talk about serverless and uh, why what we learned in the last few weeks is not important anymore because you don't need a backend because you don't need to build your infrastructure. I'm just kidding. Serverless is still a backend. Yeah, just jokes. So serverless means that you just don't need to build the infrastructure. You don't need to have your own server like a hardware. You don't need to do all this setup, etc. And we'll talk about all the benefits. But the idea is that all this all this logic has been delegated to some other company. So yeah, the definition for serverless is it's a cloud computing execution model where the cloud provider dynamically manages and allocates the provision of servers. That means basically that it is very, again, it's easy for startups and for big companies. Even now, like huge companies, they more and more they delegating server architectures and to serverless services like Amazon and others. So let's talk about benefits. The first thing is reduced time to market and quicker software release. What it means that you basically, again, you don't care about the servers and the whole infrastructure. You just write some logic, create some simple endpoints, deploy it to the server, and this is to the cloud, and this is it. And all infrastructure and setup will be made by the cloud. Reduce the complexity of software. Again, you don't need to write some code, some part of the application. It will be delegated to cloud, so you don't need to do the whole setup. Simplify packaging and deploying and requires no system administration. Same thing, because that will be administrated by the cloud platform, by their teams. You don't really need to have your administrators. You don't really care about how it's organized there. So lower operational and development costs. Again, you might get that you still need to so I left a comment that this is to some point, because if you get to the point when you have a huge traffic, when you have like a very very big, I don't know, the really big product, you might consider that you want to have your own infrastructure. And why I'm saying that, this is like a simple example. That imagine that you live in London, right? And you use a car like, I don't know, once a month. There is no reason for you to go and buy your own car and pay for parking, pay for some congestion charges, etc. just because you have the car. It's easier to rent a car when you need it, and with like Zipcar or whatever, you can just use their service, and this is it. It's much cheaper for you rather than keep your own car. But on some point, when you start using your car every day and you commuting a lot and you just use it, you will get to the point that it's cheaper to own your car rather than always renting the car. So this is the same thing basically. When you start your business and when it's small, you don't want to waste your money for infrastructure to keep some professionals and engineers who will maintain the whole system, and you just want to quickly deploy your application and work on the product and do some marketing, develop your product, etc. Enjoy the startup life. Yeah, scalability. This is a big one actually. This is like a huge advantage of cloud services. So imagine that you build a website, right? You have a great product. Imagine that you've created a website where you sell, I don't know, masks and gloves and sanitizers, right? So You've created this website in 2019 and you have a few sales per day and you have a few customer like visitors on your website, etc., and you own your own server, and you have your this is small PC, the old PC you're running, you have some engineer who will maintain it, etc., and suddenly some guy got COVID, and then the whole world got infected, and everybody's try to find the sanitizers, mask, and gloves. They are looking someplace to buy, and one day, you wake up in the morning, and you see that you have thousands requests on your website, and your website constantly falling because your server can't handle it. And this is crazy. You think this is a golden time. You want to sell your products, but you can't because your server can't handle all this traffic. That is why with cloud services, basically they provide you on demand, and they charge you on demand. So if you have 2 users, you will pay for that traffic. But if you suddenly got 100 millions, they will, in the same moment, they will scale whole your server and will handle all your traffic. And the next moment, when we finally resolve all this COVID thing, when your traffic goes down and you don't have so many requests, it will automatically shrink the size of your server, and you will be charged only for the amount that you use. So this is very easy from the business perspective. But again, with if you have your own server, right, that means that you need to go and buy more powerful computer. Then you need to do a setup. Then you might just lose the time, your golden time when you can make money and get rich, buy Ferrari, quit from programming. So that is why scalability is very important. The next thing is serverless is managed by cloud provider. Your servers are small. This is what I just basically described, right? The next thing is fits with microservices. So you don't need to build. This is actually good. Another good point of serverless, because you don't need to build kind of monolithic server or thinking about how to split your microservices into separate applications, etc. You don't really need to think about that. You just deploy as separate functions or separate solutions, and that will be hosted automatically as separate things. You basically it's kind of like create a GitHub repository, right? So you don't need to do all the setup. You just create a new thing, just a new function, and deploy your code, and this is it. So this is very easy for you to create microservices and create the architecture of your server or the backend. Yeah, so we have 3, I would say, main providers for the cloud solutions. So we have Google Clouds. By the way, in slides, I've made them as links. So now you can basically, when you want to go to each, you just click on this one, select the link. So the first is Google Clouds, and they have they pretty democratic prices. I'll show you all the examples, but they have a Google Cloud is the big solution. The part of that we have Firebase, and we will actually work with Firebase today, and I'll show you an example of how to do something with it. So so this is basically why Google. So what do they have? Where do they have? So they have a lot of servers, right, across the world. So if this is another advantage, because if you have some clients from States, they don't need to reach the server in the UK. If you have your local laptop or local PC or local server, they just go into the closest server and fetching data from there. So your website will load faster, and you can sell more. Yeah, so they providing you some machine learning solutions, some analytics, etc., security, a lot of things. Yeah. Another one is AWS. Probably all of you already heard about Lambda. This guy, right? So we can actually,
when you're building applications,
yeah, you can check their promo materials, how does it work, benefits, etc. So yeah, they pretty much providing you the same thing, right? Like Google, AWS, or Azure. This is the solution from the Microsoft, and my company use Azure, and this is probably because our backend has been built on .NET, and they just stick with Microsoft. But yeah, this is what it is. So we use, for example, Azure, but I would say that the most popular cloud solution for Node is Google, because so for example, AWS allows you to write on different languages, on Python, Node, PHP, I think. Like, they have a variety of languages. And Google allows you to write only Node, like just Node. To be honest, I don't know from their business perspective, I don't know why do they have this limitation, but you're able to write just Node functions for Google Cloud. Yeah. So you have links if you want to explore. You can go through each and just play around to understand what do they offer, what is the difference. And I think that just Google has the free trial. Let me just check it, because I don't remember. I think Amazon doesn't have like a free account. So let me just go to events, documentary pricing, right? Learn about free trial. Ooh, includes offer the always free for the expert. Yeah, so you have like a 1 year promo, right? You can theoretically use it to play around and just test it, but let's see the pricing. Service pricing, gosh, yeah, it's complicated. I think that they charging you for each service that you use: storage, database, computing time, some networking, analytics, etc. So that might be complicated. But anyway, you're able to have 12 months for free. They definitely have some limitations, but this feature, yeah. So you have some limitations like 750 hours processing time, compute time, some storage, database, queries, etc. Yep, this is AWS. And I think the Microsoft, I think they just charge you straight away. I think they might be the most greedy. Your pricing. No, start for free. What does it mean, start for free? Get started with 12 months of free service. Yeah, okay. I know that some startups, might be interesting for startups, because some startups, they getting these 12 months, and they come to the Microsoft and negotiate another 2 years, for example, of free usage. And then when they build everything around Microsoft, they start charging them, because they have no way out. So that is why they are happy to provide for startups. They are happy to provide extra prolongation for the free trial period. Questions on this one before we start with Firebase? No? Good. Good.
I have a
Yep.
question, Harry. So let's say we use one provider for a year. Another year we want to change the provider. Is it possible?
Yeah. So with Google Clouds and AWS, you can theoretically, because AWS allows you to write node functions, so theoretically you can migrate from Google Clouds to AWS very easily, because you so what you're doing when you creating these functions, you're just writing node functions and wrap them into like a infrastructure abstraction, and this is like a connector to your node functions. So basically you can take your node code and deploy it to another provider like AWS, for example, from Google. So you're migrating from Google, deploying your code to the AWS, doing some minor setup to basically to create this like a connector, and just I don't know, probably it's like a half a day of work, and you can work with another provider. I'm not sure about Azure because I never worked with it. So to be honest, I can't say like why Azure. But with Google, definitely with Google, from Google to AWS, it's easy. But you see that if you're on AWS and your infrastructure and whole logic has been built on Python, you can't migrate to Google Clouds because it's on Python, and Google supports only Node.js.
Okay.
So you basically need to rewrite everything. So use Node.js, don't use Python.
Okay.
You know where to learn Node.js, right? Okay. So the next thing I want to talk is Firebase. This is actually a big thing because I would say that Firebase is very, very liberal service from Google. You can actually host your website for free. Like, so basically you buy a domain and deploy your website to Firebase, and you have hosting for free. And they have a lot of services by creating, so you can create like projects on Firebase, host your projects, create domains, link domains for it, so host it. And they have quite a few other features that they use. So Firestore, machine learning, Google Clouds. This is because Firebase is a part of Google Cloud's infrastructure. So you can write your functions, your node functions, and deploy and have these handlers. They also provide you services with authentication. It's very easy. So you basically delegating authentication for Google, and they will do it. Hosting, cloud storage, so you can store some files, real-time database. So their Firebase database is the way the Mongo works. So it's like a object-oriented database. It's a huge object, and you just storing data. So it's like, I mean, again, Node, Mongo, and Firebase is pretty like is the setup basically for your backend. And typically people use GraphQL as well as an API for your database. So they also have integrated Google Analytics. Like, so basically you're getting a whole package for your product, for your application. And they do some predictions, so you can build a smart segmentation, do some smart segmentation, A/B testing, cloud messaging, remote config, and dynamic links. They have, like, again, there's everything you need probably for deploying your application and build your product without thinking about all of this setup. You can do from Firebase. So it's much easier to do it in one place rather than just jumping from different services, try to automate all of them and link, connect, etc. That might be painful. That is why they bring in you the whole package. So yeah, as I said, end of backenders era? No, because you still need to write your code. You still need to write your You don't need to build the infrastructure, but you need to write your backend code, your Node.js or Python or whatever. It's just delegating the infrastructure handling. So don't be freaked out that this is the end.
I have a couple of questions, if that's okay.
Yep.
When you said Firebase, you can host your website, is that for limited time?
No.
And is it different from the Google Cloud or?
So no, it's unlimited. So you can deploy your website and host it there without any limitations. I think that they might have some limitation in size, but normally that should be something very, very big. That's and you should have a crazy traffic. And actually Firebase, they have their business model and pricing model is that you will not pay unless you get to a certain point with the traffic. So when you are a small business, you will never pay unless you get some huge traffic to your website. And if you get a huge traffic to your website, you probably should make money.
Mm-hmm.
And
also when you yes, go on. Sorry.
On that point, they will charge you. Yeah, sorry.
And so you also said they provide authentication for you as well.
Yep.
So when you say authentication, when for example, if I have a small app and I need somebody to log in, so I created that page. So does that mean they will create it on behalf of me, or is there something else, different authentication?
That means that they will handle all the logic of authentication, all these tokens, etc. You basically pointing your login page to their API, and they will do all the authentication.
Oh, I see. That's cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? No? Okay. So, let's actually do something. So we need to, today I want to talk about Firebase, and this is the Google Clouds example, how you can work with Google and build and deploy basically build your first serverless application. So let's go to Firebase. So because on my laptop I have a setup for my account, I want to go to because I already installed. I installed this Firebase tools a while ago because we use Firebase. But let's actually create a new project. So you need to create a project, then go to the console, and you'll have a list of your projects. So let's create a new one, and let's name it, I don't know, Nodes Serverless Lesson, right? So they already hey, enable Google Analytics for this project, A/B testing, all these shiny things. We probably don't need it. So, and it's creating. Let's wait. Beautiful. We have our project. So in our project, we have some cloud file store, which is our database. Oh no, sorry, not this one. This one. This is real-time database. So let me show you. We don't have any database right now, so they will allow us to create one, but let's leave it for later. We have storage where we can store our files, data, etc. We have hosting. This is what I was talking about. You can create a hosting. You just need a domain, right? And here you have your Google Functions, which we don't have. And we have a lot of other tools like analytics, a lot of tools. Ooh, they have funnels. Look at this, they have automation funnels. They go wild with all this stuff. Yeah, anyway, we have the project, right? So we need to install our Firebase tools. So let me I created just an empty folder. So let's initialize npm init. Let's try. Let's create some repo. So we have our packages on, right? So what I want to install is, what do I want to install? This one, Firebase tools. Maybe it will suggest, so basically you need to do that, but might be updated or something, I don't know. It might ask me to give admin permissions as well. Yeah, admin permissions. Oh, sorry. Sudo yeah, sorry. Let's wait. So the next thing that I want to initialize my project, and here you need to provide, when you're initializing your project, you want to provide the type of the project. And we have a few types, like Firebase has a few types: database, Firestore, functions, hosting, storage, or emulator. So we'll use hosting for today because we want to host basically we want to host like an endpoint, our server, and have some like access, right? User-friendly access. So we will get a Firebase URL, will like a domain. We will not have the very nice domain, but we will have the internal domain, which basically you can reach from any point. So let me just, is it done? Yep, it's done. So now Firebase init hosting. Here, use existing project, right? So we already created our project. And here I have node server lesson. Do you want to use a public directory? Yes. Do you want to rewrite index? No. This is it, right? So we have our hosting basically. We also want to init Google Functions because we will create a function. So to show you, remember me, to run your kind of like a local server, right? You can emulate the server locally and write your Firebase. So you can do this with Firebase serve, just Firebase serve, and that will just create a server. And if you, if you go to our localhost 5000, we will land to our page, right? The default template from Firebase, which is here, right? So they have some stylings: welcome, Firebase hosting complete. Let's do something like, I don't know, node server lesson. you can see this is our template. Great. So the next step is to initialize functions. So we will use them for Google Functions, and Firebase init functions. Oh gosh. So yeah, you select in the language. We will use JavaScript. Do we want to have S-linked? Yeah, why not? Do you want to install dependencies? So here it's asking about dependencies. If you, I mean, you probably, if you definitely don't know what dependencies you need. So I just press yes, why not? And that will automatically install all dependencies for this package. Because sometimes you might don't want to have it because you have some hard-coded dependencies with versions for your application, so that might be not very safe for you to just update the packages. Okay, great. So we got another folder, functions, right? And functions is basically our Google Functions, and we will write our code here, in basically here. So they have a nice example. They creating like some template. So what you will do, you exporting hello world, and you just creating functions, HTTPS on request, and you have pretty much very familiar syntax probably, right? Because like an express request, response, and you have a logger, hello logs, structured data, and you sending back hello from Firebase. Let's change it to hello friend. Save it, and we need to we can deploy it, right? We can deploy now, or we can serve it locally. So let's actually test it. So let me just check. So we have functions, we have hello world. We need to change, let me just find Firebase JSON. Yeah, so we need to tweak it because we're exporting, and I'll actually give you an example. So this is BizExpress. Let me just skip it. When you doing this export, hello world, you actually this is where you exporting your kind of logic, your express or whatever. And here, let's say, yeah, hello world fine for us. And in my case, I want to, so we have function, which is hello world, and source. I need to provide where it comes from. So let me just hosting. Am I right? Yeah. Hosting. So we want to rewrite and do not target the index HTML, but our own thing. So rewrite. We have hosting. And is it hosting? Sorry, no. So source and function. Sorry, yeah, functions. And functions. We have our hello. We probably can rename it to make it nicer. Let's call it app. App is better. And we have source. Source means that basically your endpoint. So you can have something like specific endpoint, like, I don't know, hello, right? But we want to handle all endpoints automatically. So we just put 2 stars. Great. Rewrites, I think this is it. So if I do Firebase, then serve hosting and functions. So I'm hosting, I'm serving both. It will build the logic. Ooh. Why it's not running? Give me a second. Why it's not running? Firebase, serve, hosting functions. Does it like comma? No, should be fine. Try with Firebase command. I'm pretty sure. Okay. So let's see what it does. Pum, 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 pum. Only. Oh yeah, right. Sorry. Because I'm passing arguments, I need to pass only. That's true. That's true. So you do only. I think that should be right. Yeah. Great. So now I have my functions, right? If I go to this URL, sorry, it's opening in other window. We're actually serving hello friend, right? Which is awesome. And if I do like Firebase deploy, so I'm deploying my application. Right. So you might get that kind of error when you'll do your project. And this is because they recently, I've Googled for that because it was working before, but I've Googled for that and they saying that this is because of the payment system, billing account basically. And what they say that by default you have Spark plan, which is free, and you need to change to Blaze pay-as-you-go account. So let me just change purchase. You're successfully upgraded. Beautiful. So now it's Blaze plan, right? Let's try again. Let's try to deploy. I actually got an email that I've just changed my billing. Okay. Almost. It takes time because it basically generates all stuff for you. It's definitely faster than just build your own thing. Ooh, look at this. What's going on? Rewrites. It is rewrites. Am I spell it correctly? Right. Yeah. Firebase deploy. Help. What's going on? Normally, you're deploying just with Firebase deploy. Why it doesn't like it? Except, nah, should be Firebase deploy. Functions required, ensuring packaging function. Okay, yeah, so now it's hosting. It was some, I don't know, internet error or whatever. So creating Node.js 10 function. And we will get, in the menu, we'll get our first function, which I will show you in a second. And it's complete. Oh, go. It's annoying, it's definitely annoying to wait, but again, it's definitely faster than rebuild the whole infrastructure by yourself. Yeah, I'm deploying to US Central. You can change it somewhere in the settings for your project, as I remember. Project settings, cloud messaging. You definitely can do that somewhere. Yeah, you can change the location for your server. Ooh, deployed. Look at this, deployed. Party. Yeah, so you can see that it has been deployed, right? And if you go to functions, you have your very first function. So let's actually try, I'll send the URL to you as well. So let's try to hit this URL. You might find the same as I do. Hello friend, right? And this is it. So we have hosting, we have some logic, and we have some like endpoint, let's say, the default endpoint that will return something to us. Pretty easy, I would say. So you don't really care about the whole setup, right? Okay. Any questions on this stage?
Yeah, just the odd one. So this the website, like a domain name would be something like a file system, not like a regular domain name, isn't it?
So this one, yes, but you can connect your custom domain. So you can go to hosting, I believe, and so now it recognizes that you have something, and you can add custom domain. And for example, I will buy a custom domain, I don't know, mybestshop.ever.com, and I can connect it. And when you reach bestshop.com, bestshop.ever.com, you will get to this place.
So you buy a domain, you connect to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So see here, you can add custom domain. You provide your mybestshop.ever.com, right? And that will redirect here to that one, and you will have your nice domain name here.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay, look at this. We are almost pros with serverless. So, as I said, the basic setup is that we want to create actual endpoints, right? So let's do that. Let's try to connect it with Express. The one thing that I want to mention is that here we have public folder and functions, right? And I'm on the top level, on the lesson level. But if you want to install your Express and write your Express, you actually need to do that in functions folder. Don't do that on the top level. You need to do it inside functions, because functions is own kind of environment with own packages on and no dependencies. So here, npm install Express. Yeah. So now we have our Express. Should be, yeah, we have our Express. So tell me how to add Express to my project.
Is Express require Express?
Yeah, const Express. Require Express. See, my smart AI, right? Top 9. By the way, I'm not sure that I've shared with old cohort the plugin that we use. Tab 9. Sida, Holly, Gariana, Florence, Malika? No? Yes?
No.
Yes.
No, yes.
Never use it.
I don't remember. Somebody shared it in our group, our other group.
Okay. So the tab 9 is AI powered autocompleter. And just a quick side note, I just want to show you so you will know what's going on. So if you create, I don't know, some function const sum, right? And you will do some num1, num2. It already understands what you probably want to do with some function. I think it's magic. Maybe even better.
Maybe after 10 years, no more development jobs.
2 weeks. 2 weeks. To be honest, with these things, they are very, very helpful. But I have a lot of when people presented the first the tools for designers, where you almost can export CSS and HTML from the design, it just doesn't work. It nice reference to what you want to have, colors, I don't know, font size, etc. But eventually you can't build the website from there, so you can't just export. So these tools are very helpful for templating. So when you do some very simple things, like some automations, because I saw the other day, we already discussed that, like a AI powered template generator. So you're just saying, create a section with yellow background and the image in the middle, and it will generate the code. But again, this is for template, for very simple things, and businesses want to have a custom things the tailor want. So that is why I think it will never happen. We will change some, we will learn some new things, but programming is the future. So yeah, install this plugin, because this is just crazy, just literally crazy. It will help you to write the better code and much easier and faster. Great. So Express, yeah, we have Express. What's next? What do we want to do? Anyone? Please tell me. Thank you, Daniel. App equals Express. Almost done. The next thing. So this is what we have from the Express, right? Basically, yeah, this is your Express, basically. This is the one that we have. So I want to have app here. But let's create an endpoint. And get endpoint. Can you please tell me how? Come on.
App.get.
App.get.
Slash.
Yeah, our smart AI.
And request response.
Response. Okay, and response dot send. Let's say again, hello from Express. Right? So we create our own custom endpoint. And let's create another one. Details, I don't know, some random one. Here we want to render details page. Right? So let's just deploy it again.
Do we need to listen?
No, because you're not listening, you're not creating your server. You just writing, this is what is serverless. You don't actually build your server. You just build in logic that you want to run, and you say into your functions, to Google functions, to the serverless basically, that hey, this is my logic. This is endpoints that you need to handle.
Okay.
So you don't need to listen, you don't need to do anything like that. New life, serverless life. Let's wait a few more seconds. Almost. Come on. I truly believe that we can do it. Just met. A few more seconds.
So just with the like 40K KB takes this long. If it's a few hundred MB or like 1 GB, how long will it take?
Oh no, it's updating Node.js. It's nothing with our code, it's just their environment.
So it's nothing to do with the deploying.
It's nothing to do with the code that we're deploying. So it's a part of their environment.
Yeah.
So they try to update Node.js. That is why it takes time. But it's not about if you have hundreds of lines or 1,000 lines here or the whole application, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Cool.
Yeah. I mean, technically, you still need to upload more lines of code, so more traffic, but this one, it takes time. Okay, so if you go here to the main one, we have hello from Express. And if you go to our endpoint, that will be details, right? Details page. Look at this. We have our logic, which is great. So we created like a very, very basic setup, right? This is the function that I've stuck with this one only, right? So you need to emulate it locally. So now it doesn't work. But if we run our, I need to go one level up, and then, come on, okay, let's do just what, Firebase serve dash only hosting dot functions. We have our public, refresh, and we have that here, right? So this is on your local machine, details page. Beautiful. Awesome. So to enable cache, this is a good example. You don't need to have a lot of code, run a lot of things. You just need to set cache. And this is it. So imagine that we have on our endpoint, we have, because we return a string, that should be date.now. Why this example? Because it will generate the timestamp so you can compare it. And yeah, so we have date now, and I want to enable cache. So you just have a response set cache control, and here we have public and private. So I left some comments for you. So to cache on the server or on the user machine. So private means that will be cached. So you're setting the cache on user machine. Public means on the server. So you'll set all caching on the server. And let's say, so we have set. It's, let me just cache control. And we have, what is timing? Sorry, public max age. Sorry, is it? Yeah, it just one. So public max age. So that will be on local machine. So we want to have, so 300 means 5 minutes, right? And what is another one? S max age. So how long we will store our cache on CDN on the Firebase, basically. So S max page, let's say, I don't know, yeah, 600, something like that. So let me show you the example. Let me deploy again. Server. So every time when you when you go to the website, you fetch in all data, right? And that takes time to bring it to the user. And sometimes you don't want to refetch it all data because, for example, your website is pretty static, and you might set like that you want to reset the cache and the latest version of the something that you're sending, like every I don't know, an hour or maybe a day, right? Because you have some static website, or maybe 3 hours. So if user will reach your website few times a day, they will reduce you'll reduce the loading time, and the website will render faster. Let me show what I mean. So now this is remote. Network. Come on. Yeah, done. So now if I refresh the page, right, I got a response, and you can see that the initial one took me almost 2 seconds, right, to load, which is a lot. But now if I refresh it, so see the number 745, still the old timestamp, so it's not the new one, but now the loading time is 21 milliseconds. So it's much faster because of the caching. And as you can see, it's very easy to set caching with the Firebase and with serverless, just with Firebase basically. Just one line of code, and now you have the whole caching logic. And now if I refresh again, still 29 milliseconds, still the old timestamp, etc. So you can save the traffic. So basically now, how it works. So you have like a server, and it would be nice to draw. Let me just online draw. That might be very ugly, but come on, right? Start drawing. So you have a server, beautiful one, the best one. You have the server. You have the user. Come on. Don't judge me. So the user, right? And between server, the main server, and the user, we have some proxy servers that basically set in the traffic, and like a routing, and they route through some servers that are closer to you. Proxy server. Still tries to make it nicer, but yeah. So your data goes here and goes there, right? So when you reach in the very first one, the very first request, it goes to the proxy server, then it goes to the server, get response to the proxy, and go to the user. If you have caching, it will go only to the proxy server and comes back. That is why it's much faster. So it almost immediately. And this is also very helpful if you have another user. Because now, if you, user 2, if you reached the main server, got the response. Now you have your cache on the proxy server. But now if the user 2 will try to reach the same endpoint, it will get data from here. So for user 2, the initial query will be much faster than for you. So basically your loading time will be much shorter, right?
The main server and the proxy server. So without the cache, it does go to the other server, which is the big server, yeah?
Yep.
And what was the reason? Is it because some of the files or data is on that server, correct?
So if you don't have caching, that means that you're not storing your data here.
In proxy server.
Yeah, in a proxy server. That is why you basically, every time you go here, you don't have anything here. You need to go there.
So how come cache brings those files from main server to the proxy? How?
Because you give an instruction. So this is HTTP, right? So you, or HTTP, I mean, just a regular protocol. If you send in the query and with some parameters, and you have some parameters here. So you're saying that if somebody asking this data, store this data for 6, so on the main one, 5 minutes, and here is like a 5 and 10 minutes, right? Nice. So you basically give instructions that you need to keep this data for some time. So the main server, sorry?
So this proxy server is already there, or it is generated only when we create a cache?
No. So this is like a internet infrastructure, right? So when you try to go to the, I don't know, to google.com, you're not actually going to their main server in, I don't know, California. They have a lot of servers closer to you, much closer, and they doing that. That is why this is actually ridiculously fast. Google.com, and every time, look at this. Look at the difference. I mean the time lag between when you type the first character and list of suggestions. So see. It's like you literally looking on your laptop. Right? So it immediately make a no noise complaint in the UK, right? Ninja Star. So this is because you're not querying the main server. This is because you're querying these servers that are closer to you. And with these extra settings of caching, you're saying that, hey, when you get this data, store it for that amount of time. And that will store it there. And when when anyone will try to reach the same endpoint, they will get this data from here. But if it will keep this data for some time, and then when it's expired, it will remove it. So after that expiration time, if the user 2 or user 1 try to reach this endpoint again, it will go here, will not find anything, and go there, take the main one, get back, cache it again, send it back, and yeah, the story repeats.
So it remembers the same request. If user make the same request, the proxy server remembers it. If it's new request, it connect to the main server.
So
is that right?
Yeah. So basically, if you have one endpoint, let's say, you try on the very first time you you want to reach some endpoint, you go into the proxy server. Proxy server see that I don't have any information about data from that endpoint. This goes to the main one. Main one will return the data, and this proxy server will send you back this data. But because of the instructions from the main server that you gave, it will keep for next 10 minutes, let's say. And if somebody will try to reach this endpoint, it will respond with this cached version. Even if you have a new data here, it will avoid for next 5 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever you use. And next time, after like 10 minutes, when anyone try to reach this endpoint, it will go here. It expired, so it's not here anymore. It will go to the main server, take another copy, store it again, and send it back to the user. But if you try to reach another endpoint, it will basically do the same. It will go to the proxy, not find, then go to the main server, and then get the response, store it, give to the user. Right?
Yes, thank you.
Should we keep it as a coding art? Right, okay. Okay. No. Thank you, Mushtaq, for support. Yeah, that is why I left this fashion design college. They also haven't recognized my talent to drawing. Okay, yeah, so this is caching, right? And let's actually connect database. Let's actually connect something, and where we can store some data and we can create like our endpoints, etc. So to do that, as you remember, we have real-time database, right? We want to create one. So test mode, because this is permissions. And I want to create, let's say friends. Oh yeah, sorry. So it's a bit annoying. It's a bit confusing even more, like when you start writing the first one. But you click value, so you have friends, and the value is an array. Yeah, it's an array. And maybe you have some objects with, I don't know, this is JSON, right? Regular JSON. So name, Alex. Then you have another object. It's annoying to write in that way, but come on. Theoretically, you can do this. Let me just try. I haven't tried it before. So just value is empty array. So at. Not very helpful. No. Come on. Right. So this is property name, friends, empty.
You also can import JSON file.
Yeah, you can do that.
It's easy.
So you can just here import, export. Yeah, easy. Okay, so let me just try friends and array but with values. So let me try add. Yeah, so it created, right? So I want to add another friend. Name, I want to, this is basically the index of my array. Here that will be, oh, I probably can write like this. So, right, probably not. I definitely need to wrap it. See, it starts complaining about, come on, what's going on? Wait a second. Why it's starting? Give me a second. It's annoying. This UI is annoying. So I just removed one. Name 0. value this at. God damn it. What's going on? Wait a sec. B1 X. Come on. What's wrong with it? It should be an array. So an array it takes as a string. Why is not an object? That's odd. So see, it tries to escape from my quotes because it thinks that this is a string, but it's not a string. Okay, that's annoying. Let me just, I'm not very familiar with the layer logic. So here, this is an array. So we have, I'm pretty sure I did it before. Alex, comma, another object, name, let's see, yeah, okay. I'm wondering, just wondering if I add, yeah, so that will add inside the object. I'm pretty sure that you can add it. Let me just check if I add name Sam. So no, you can't do that. 0, 2. This is, what the heck? So just created 2 with Sam. Sorry, I'm just curious. So 2 name Sam. What the heck? It wasn't working, but yeah, anyway, so we created friends, right? And to add our Firebase to the project, you need to install Firebase admin. So another thing that we need, cd functions and npm install Firebase admin. Right. So the next thing is const Firebase is require Firebase admin. So to do a setup, you basically need to initialize the Firebase application to be able to connect to the database, and you need to provide credentials. And because we have functions and we already connected to our project, you can get your credentials from functions config Firebase. So, but these credentials comes from user permissions, billing, integration, I think. Oh, not integration, cloud messaging. Give me a second. Server, so we have some server key. We have, yeah, this one. So you need to provide credentials. But yeah, again, because we're using functions, we already have these credentials. So all I need to do is to initialize my application. Firebase application firebase.initialize app with functions dot edit config dot config firebase. Yeah, firebase. Yeah, so we have our application and we have our database. So let's remove this caching, we don't need it anymore, and let's have some endpoint API / friends, right? And we will have to get it, we need to, again, this is async await. When I was writing that, I was thinking, I know that I forgot about async await. Sorry for that again. But you need to create a reference, right? So you have a database as a whole thing, and this is a database return you an object, which you have a ref function, and you provide in the actual database name. In our case, it is friends. But yeah, let's do that. Ref database and ref. This is friends in our case. Friends in our case. And so this is a thing. We can theoretically, we need to take a snapshot of the of the database. So you have like once, and all this is not just a bunch of magic, because we have all the documents here, so you can read it later. And like, because here's the setup, here's the how to get data with all instructions, and so this is your snapshot basically. And you have all like examples and references and reading. So yeah, it's not something that you just need to memorize like 3 commands or something. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so what we want is to now, because this is asynchronous, right? Is it asynchronous? It is. No, this one is not asynchronous, but this one is synchronous. So const data, and here we want to have our ref dot, I don't remember the syntax. Yeah, that one, sorry. So that should be await, because this is asynchronous. Ref dot once, so you're getting values, value, and then we have, I don't remember really, then snapshot and the snapshot value. So snapshot is again is an object, so this is a callback. Okay, just a callback. Snapshot, and you have snapshots val. Val. Okay, so because I have a wait, what do I need to have?
Async.
Async.
And is that there then, not them?
Thank you. Them. Right, so we have data, and data will be an object. So let's pass JSON to the front end, right? Data. So let's deploy why is lagging? Firebase deploy. So we'll have our, so basically you connecting now, you connecting the database from the Firebase, right? And the Google functions. So the whole application basically now is in cloud. Your endpoints, your database, everything is there. So let's wait a few seconds, and that will, we probably need to test it. It might be nice to test it before we deploy, but come on, right? Let's do that. Firebase serve only functions. Almost. Functions. So what is the endpoint? API friends. As you can see, we get data from our database, right? And see that you don't need to think about some infrastructure, about your servers, physical servers. You just write your node, have the database in the cloud, and just working with it, right? I think it looks easy. What do you think?
Yeah, with practice, we'll get there in the end.
Sorry?
With practice, we'll get there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so you don't, again, you don't need to think about this deployment, etc. About your servers. That is why it's very helpful. And now, if everybody will go to your API and will fetch your friends, the Google will handle all your traffic. Is it 1 or 2 people or a few millions? It will automatically scale the infrastructure for you and give you resources to handle all the queries. So you don't need to think about all of these things, because sometimes it is pain, trust me. Yes, I think so. Again, I just want to show you. Yeah, I think we deployed already. So if you go to this one, yeah. So now we have a public API for the database, right? And people can reach it and fetch users. You can add you can add users, so you can have posts, etc., and basically work with your database. Pretty nice, I think. Yeah, so they also give you a link where you can check the functions. And let me actually check one thing. I was going to show you. Oh, right. So here we have docs, as I said, so you can read about how to save data. So I think that your homework includes that, as I remember, to post data. So you can read how to connect the server, your function with the database. And trust me, it's not very complicated. And this is not a node, but this is Web Code Lab for Firebase. And I think that it's a good exercise for you just to go and build with them. So basically they guide you step by step. What do you need? What you will build? And you just navigating through each step, and they saying, okay, so clone this repo like a prep, like a basic setup. Then just create it and set up Firebase project in the Firebase. Then connect database. Install all the Firebase things. Then run and start the command, start the application. So you'll have this basic setup. You don't need to build the actual UI. They're giving you how to connect to application, authentication, storage, messaging, Firestore, etc. So you'll see how easy to build some applications with their packages. So you don't need to build everything by yourself. You just connecting authentication, you connect in some messaging package which probably handle messaging, and yeah, so setup, signing, it will show you how to authorize your users on queries, etc. So I think it's pretty handy to go through it and build the application with them. Again, this is not a Node one, but it will, like, you'll learn how to interact with Firebase. It doesn't matter where you're interacting from. Yeah. Yeah, so the other thing that I might show you. So you also can serve, because we have hosting, right? You also can serve your HTML file. So you can use like handlebars and create templates and serve it to the browser. So basically, people can you can render the page, not just data, not just APIs, but actual website, and serve it. And that is why we have two parts of application. We have the hosting, which is our page, basically, and we have functions, which is our endpoints, kind of, right? So we have HTTP trigger request, and we have it. So we have some runtime, Node.js. We can check view logs. We can check some health, etc. Come on, it takes time, right? So long. And yeah, so it gives you all logs, who queried, how long it took, was it successful, was it unsuccessful, etc. Yep, I think this is it for Firebase. The other thing, if you want, if you get bored with Firebase, I think it's enough, because again, like MERN stack is, and Node especially, normally people use with Google Clouds, but sometimes somebody wants to use with AWS, and this is still pretty popular. It's not still, it is pretty popular. So you might want to play with AWS, and you can try to go to their code labs. Ooh, wait a second. Oh, great, I spot it now. Give me a second. AWS. You can try to create AWS account and try to do a setup for Node.js. And try to use your Node.js and actually play and see how easy it is or how complicated it is to move from Firebase functions, Node functions, to AWS functions, and deploy your code to AWS. So let me just yeah. Okay, let me style it. Yeah. So yeah, try to create an account. They have a 1 year free account, right? And install SDK and try to deploy your, because the exercise for you is to, let me just check that. GitHub. Which I'll deploy to you. So you need to create like a bank database with employees and clients. We have a few endpoints, and yeah, you need to basically serve HTML pages with handlebars. So it's nothing crazy, just simple get requests and a few. Ooh, I have some issues with alignment. I'll check that. But yeah, so this is what you need to build it. Also handlebars, and try then if you have spare time, just try to migrate it to AWS, just for practicing if you want. But yeah, Firebase should be enough for you to have fun. And yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so when you said endpoints, the endpoints basically, does that mean like the pages, or like, let's say, the index page, or the...
Yeah, so yeah, you're absolutely right. The website, the URL is the URL, but we name it and call it URL when it's like a HTML file, when you're serving HTML files. But when you're serving data, we call it endpoints. It's like functions and methods, you know.
Function and method. Yeah, but endpoints mean the page, first page, main page, or the second page, or contact page.
Yeah.
Those are the endpoints. Yeah?
But we call, again, URLs that serves HTML, we call just like regular pages and URLs. But the URLs that serving data, we call it endpoints. Data like JSON files. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I hear concerns.
No, I think so. It's just it might not be clear enough, but so when the URL is pages, but when a website is serving some data, you call endpoint. So what's it? Because a website does not serve the data as if like in JSON, isn't it? So I just was trying to find out the real world example.
So so here I have a URL, right? If this URL returning me this page, I call it just URL and web page. But if this URL, if I go to this URL, I will get JSON file, JSON data, I will call it endpoint.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. I can understand that, but I'm just trying to see, in real world, there isn't any endpoint, isn't it? I was just trying to understand.
So you created, why not? You've created endpoints for data, right? You're not serving to the user from user perspective, there is no endpoints. But from the developer perspective, you're reaching endpoints to get data, right? So you're creating like endpoint, like API / clients. This is endpoint because it's serving data to you.
Cool. Just for the developers and the backend. That's all right. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, it's for as a front-end developer, you're communicating with endpoints, not websites, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're fetching data. You're sending data, you're fetching data, you're working with data. That is why we call it endpoints.
Yeah, makes sense now. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Any other questions? See how clear Firebase is? Everybody got it from the first time.
Is that for sure?
Yeah, see, easy. So serverless is easy. And again, I want to emphasize that many startups, if you will start to look for a job, many startups use Google Clouds or AWS. Just two things. Azure is like very, very rarely used. And probably if you get the company that use Azure, they will be fine with you if you know that, if you tell them that, hey, I used to work with AWS or Google Clouds. They will say, that's fine, it's almost the same. So yeah, that should be fine.